What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and holy shit. Sunday, we're the week of. Sunday is Josh Barnett's Bloodsport live on Fight TV, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to one of the combatants for such events. He is the Pain Prince. He is Alexander James. Alexander, what's going on, my man?
Nothing much. Just another day training, getting ready, just focused. Mine's forward, ready to go.
Man, I cannot wait. I don't. I think me and Barnett are probably the most hype about this event without actually competing. But I mean, obviously, he has a credence to do so.
Yeah.
Obviously, bearing his name, I'm a forever white belt in jiu-jitsu. Not nearly the catch wrestling practitioner that he is. So, I mean, but even still, I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, he's an expert. It's scary the things he has to know. I believe student of Carl Gotch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Also trained with Suzuki a little bit as well. I've heard him tell stories about training with Suzuki. Like, it's a bad man. I've heard plenty of stories about him from Thatcher when I've trained under Thatcher and some catch wrestling stuff, and some in his modest showing me of what he learned from Barnett. And he's a scary man. He's War Master for a reason, I'm sure.
Hell yes. I mean, he definitely shed that babyface assassin moniker that he had early in his career. I mean, eons ago. Well, you know what's the funny thing? I mean, I met him. This had to be probably about 3 or 4 years ago at Combate America's like MMA event, and I was covering the event and the weigh-ins, and I was like, "Oh, dude!" Like, he was sitting down, and I was like, "Oh, this dude is cool. He's got Dickies, Chucks, and like this Iron Maiden slash like Harajuku like caricature T-shirt," and I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna talk to this dude and see where we got the shirt." And I saw him from the back. I didn't see him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets up because one of his fighters were on the card. He gets up, and I'm like, "Oh shit, it's Barnett." Oh, all right. So then I go up to him and I was like, "Hey, huge fan, you know, but first, can we take a picture? And then second, what was it like to train with Antonio Inoki?" And he sits back, and I mean, it's an extended pause. It was probably about 10, 15 seconds, but in my mind, I was like, "Oh shit, I pissed off the War Master."
Yeah, a man as dangerous as that, and then he's taking a second to think about what you just said. It makes you second guess everything about what you said and how you said it and the inflection in your voice, and wondering, did I just cost myself my life?
Exactly. And his response, "Nobody's ever asked me that." And I was like, "Oh shit, yes, I'm in." Woohoo! Yeah, man. But he's been great. He's set up this very interview and the litany of interviews that you've seen here at According to Woods in support of Bloodsport. So can't thank the War Master enough. But how psyched are you for Sunday?
I'm so excited. This is probably one of the most excited I've been for a match fight in, I don't know, I guess since the last time I wrestled was just 16 karat this past March. But before that, it's like, I love what I do. And like, you know, I'm a professional wrestler for a living, but it's a job, right? So after like you've been in it for a couple of years, your excitement for matches, it has to be something real special to really get that spark. And this really got that spark for me, not only because it's finally a big platform for me in the US, which I've waited almost 12 years for, but it's in the style of wrestling of which I really hold a candle and a preference and that I really enjoy.
No, I innovator you are. I mean, again, it's weird because like people in the know when you know it got tweeted out and whatever, you know, people who didn't know, they were like, "Who is this Alexander James cat?" And I'm like, "Dude, you have no fucking idea." But it's cool because, you know, it's like an underdog in a fight, right? Where you're like, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the platform for you to just like go in and just like, you know, show them why you are where they are, and why me personally was fucking excited as shit, and it couldn't have been a better fit for you in this kind of venture.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's one of those things where, like over the past 12 years, there's been a lot of instances where I like, at least in the first 4, 5, 6, however, there was plenty of times where it was like, or maybe I should say 11, 11 and a half, something I don't remember, but there's plenty of times where I was in some bigger platforms, but I look completely different, like no beard, long red hair, skinny, fat body, whatever. Just not a toned athlete, relatively inexperienced, and was also, even when I would start to spark and show talent, there was times where it was kind of like, you won't have it. You don't have it. You won't get to this point. So kind of shuffled around and nonsensical. And so then to go away and hone what I do and become confident when I do and become, re-inspired in a sense, and really have it, beat into my mind by like guys like Walter and Thatcher and the WXW office that like, no, you know what you're doing, that you have all the potential in the world, not just potential, because potential is talent that hasn't come out yet. All the talent in the world, and you have the ability to, and then to come back to the States years later, like not that I haven't wrestled in the meantime in the States, but in a platform like this years later with people not knowing who I am, being like, oh, who's this German dude? Not knowing I'm even American, because I've gotten plenty of that too. I have so many people who've just like, yeah, I thought you're German. And they're like, no, I'm American. And to then get to come back to America on this platform, and for people that did know me to be like, oh, finally. And then the vast majority of people who don't know me to be like, it's my chance to give them like they're going to think it's like, oh, who's this new guy? But I'm not new at all. So then they're just going to get blown away by like, oh, wait, what's this? Wait a minute. I thought this was some new guy. No, and I get to teach them otherwise.
No, that you do. That you do. My goodness. Woo, I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. Now, you've been on this. Near like, we're closing in on like, you're closer to 20 years than you were to 5, right? In the sport, So, what made you decide to get involved with the wonderful world of pro wrestling?
It's all I've ever known that I wanted to do, to be honest. Like when I was 7, I walked in on my dad watching it, because like my household didn't have cable till like 2003 or 2004. My parents were always so far behind. My dad always insists, I'll never pay for television. It's free. It should be free, which no, it's a service like anything else, I guess. And then of course they didn't get, high-speed internet until like a few years ago, where I was like, this is getting installed. Like you need it. So I've already lost track, but anyway, so I walked in on my dad watching a pay-per-view on VHS, because we didn't have cable, didn't have the means to get pay-per-view. So my mom's friend, when they would order it, they would then record it, send it over. My dad would watch it. So I walked in and I just saw like, I think it was like a 4-way tag team match between the Hardys, the New Age Outlaws, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. And I was just like, what's this? And my dad was kind of like, the way it was described to me, which is what I heard like Bret Hart described in his book, was like, oh, it's just like a superhero fight in a sense. So I was like, I'm into this. I want this. And then like from the very beginning, as far as like professional wrestling, the entertainment version of it, my dad told me from the start, he's like, hey, just so you know, I don't want to see you doing this on your sister or your mother or anything like that. So this stuff isn't what it seems. I could not care less. It doesn't matter to me. Like that doesn't affect my love for it whatsoever. I just saw that there's a comment section, and Jesse Velasquez says you're the dark horse that isn't really a dark horse, which I appreciate that. And from that moment, I was just like, oh, I can do this. And then my dad was like, oh no, like this takes this or that. And then my high school wrestling coaches I had were like, you're too small or this or that, which imagine telling a kid who's like naturally 6'2", he's too small. What? But the entire time I just had this mentality throughout my whole life that's like, well, if they can do it, obviously there's a way for me to do it. Like I'm 7 years old. I've got time to do whatever it needs for me to get to that point. However hard I have to work, there's no reason why I can't do this. Like, so for people to tell me right off the bat, I can't, I was, I guess, smart enough at 7 to be like, no, like I can do this. Yeah. Like there's no reason why I can't.
No, 100%, 100%. And Stephen Tatum says the great TLC legend. So shout out to them. Absolutely. I mean, that's a pretty cool, kind of spot to kind of get into, and teams, because there are folks that are like, oh, I was influenced by like Warrior and Papa Shango, and you're like, I mean, as a worker now, and I mean those things. I mean, I was a fan of like Steve Mongo McMichael. Then I watched like what is it, WrestleBotch, and I'm like, oh god, he was the shits.
Yeah, but he was charismatic. Like so many people get hung up on the entertainment side of wrestling. So many people get hung up on like, oh, this, that, or whatever. And like, yeah, Mongo obviously had like a plenty of issues in his basics, which you can't really defend. But he was charismatic and he was entertaining. And I'll go back and watch something. Like if I'm watching old WCW for like shits and giggles or whatever, I'll like if a Mongo match comes on, I'm like, all right, let's see what he does. Okay. Whether it's cringeworthy or it's just sheer entertainment. Because he was entertaining. He was charismatic. Like he's definitely not the worst horseman.
No, wait. Are we throwing shade on Paul Roma?
I didn't. I mean, you're the one that said it, not me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it's definitely not Arn. So.
Oh God. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yes. So there you go. Oh man. So I mean, after that, I mean that 4-way tag match. I mean that obviously, like, holy hell, and it's even more meaningful because you had to go out and seek it. Like you had your dad had the VHS tape and what have you. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like how frequent that kind of occurrence happened and who you followed after, like, I mean, who did you follow after, and then how regular were the tapes that you guys would get?
So most people would get very surprised by this. I think more so like the students that I teach. After that match, the next match I remember watching is the Iron Man match between The Rock and Triple H, where Shawn Michaels was involved, The Undertaker comes out, all that kind of stuff. And from there on out, The Rock was my guy. He is from that day forward been like one of my biggest inspirations in pro wrestling. Again, I am Mr. Technical Wrestler. I'm Mr. Hard hitting, hard nosed, no nonsense kind of thing. And like, besides, so flaunting the fact I'm a prince and all that kind of stuff. But like, so many people are like surprised when I say that. But The Rock for me was the dude. And even my dad, who doesn't like wrestling anymore, even for him, he's like, oh yeah, I'll watch The Rock stuff. He's what's up. He's the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. Like even my dad will say it.
Yeah. No, 100%. And the bad blood of PJ Darden says, laugh my ass off. Paul Roma was horrible.
I would say horrible, serviceable, but just not a horseman. Like,
yeah, not a horseman.
I don't want to gripe on Paul Roma too much because I don't know if he'll like come back after me or something. I don't know if he has the Twitter machine, which I don't care if he does, but he wasn't. It wasn't that he was like a terrible pro wrestler. It's just he didn't like to be a horseman is something very like finite and special. A lot of the later editions were not horsemen to me either. But during that time, like there had to be something like it was a very finite group of acceptable people, I think, to be horsemen. And he just to me wasn't one of them.
I mean, neither was Luger, right? I mean, Wyndham. I don't know.
Wyndham I accept because I have like a special place in my heart for Barry Windham. He's just just a tall, big, athletic guy that's so heavily underrated, and they just kind of missed the boat, and then he got given to it too late, right? Like I could talk wrestling history like all day, but like Barry I accept. Luger still above Roma, I think, as far as a horseman, but still not quite it, right? Didn't quite fit. Like his narcissism and stuff like that were what I see or felt for him as a heel, as a character, to me leaves him needing to be isolated rather than in a faction. So for me, that's why that didn't work.
No, that makes sense. I like that. I really, no, that works. I like that theory. And the theory behind it, you sold it for me. You absolutely sold it for me. Now, I mean, obviously, to go from like a 4-way, tag team match involving the Hardys and Edge and Christian and what have you, and then now you're kind of knowing and knowledge of all things horsemen and I mean everything under the sun that comes to your given art for wrestling. I mean, when did you start to kind of go back?
I don't really. I think it was when I started to get older a little bit. I think I was constantly watching whatever I could up until maybe my middle school years, where DVDs would start to come out with like biographies by WWE, right? Like you had the Road Warriors one, you had the Self-Destruction Ultimate Warrior, you had the documentary about World Class Championship Wrestling and the tragedy of
Mhm.
the Von Erichs. I bought all of those once they were available at the the local Walmart because I grew up a country boy. So I'd get those and I watch them. I just learned as much as I could. I always, and that's a big thing, no matter what your chosen profession. And I try to instill this with my students at WXW and here in the States at the EWA Pain Factory. No matter what your given profession is, if you want to be good at it, I think you need to learn the history of it. Years ago, before I was wrestling full time, I was a copier technician. I learned what copiers used to do before the copiers I was working on then, because the basis of that knowledge is then what is founded upon the advancement of that technology. So it's good to have that base knowledge to build off of. With pro wrestling, even more so, you learn people's mistakes. You learn what didn't work, what did work, what you can use, what you can pick. There's not really original thought ideas in the world of professional wrestling anymore. So there's so many things from back then you can go and grab and take and make your own. There's so many classics out there. Like there's Nick Bockwinkel matches from like the 60s or the 50s, some in the Garden, I think, that you can go and watch and it's black and white and you'll just be like, this isn't what I thought of old pro wrestling to be. I thought it was going to be boring or whatever, but they're very entertaining and they're very creative stuff. And it's stuff that isn't like, we'll try this at training on Wednesday and we'll do it Saturday. No, they did it right then and there. They thought of it, called it, did it. And I think that's a very lost art, something that needs to be real instilled. And again, I'm not crapping on anybody who nowadays has to practice some of their stuff beforehand. Nowadays, with some more theatrical stuff, you need to be safe. You need to take care of yourself if that's your chosen style. And again, especially people coming up, if you're at a school and you have your match on Saturday together and you train together on the week, go for it. Keep yourself safe. But that's just the stuff they did was right then and there in your face. It was spur of the moment, called just based off the reactions of the crowd. It was innovative even by today's standards. And there's so much good stuff back then. So like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't know who brought you to the dance, who brought you to the table, who made this what it is. And I think that's why there's a lot of flack in today's wrestling from different various sources. Is there's younger individuals who are doing great, rightfully so, that maybe don't want to listen to, it's kind of this theory, like the loudest person in the room, you're less likely to listen to, right? Because they're obnoxious and they're loud. So a lot of these old timers who are trying to help are just being obnoxious and loud. So why is anybody going to listen to them? Especially the younger generation who what they're doing is working. But that older generation with this history is like, yes, it's working, but it could work even better this way. And I think knowing the history of professional wrestling really, really comes into play with this. And this isn't over encompassing. There's a lot of modern talent and stuff like that who definitely knows that kind of stuff and uses it to their advantage. So I'm not trying to paint in too broad a strokes by any means.
No, 100%. I mean, you mentioned, Bockwinkel. Geez, I'm a mark for fucking AWA. Like,
oh
and
yeah,
that's one of the fucking things that doesn't get back. Like, you'll see like a hammerlock fucking get brought back, or a half Nelson, in the match, or full Nelson in the master lock or whatever. But why the fuck hasn't anybody brought back Vern Gagne's drop kick? Holy shit, that was a thing of art where he fucking hits you and spins out and takes a flat back bump. Holy fucking shit, that is a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, shit me. And there's a reason why, that motherfucker went over Bockwinkel in his retirement fight. That's what Daniel Cormier couldn't even do. That Vern Gagne could do, right? Retire with the title. Just saying.
Oh, poor Daniel. But hell of a fight, though. But just a side note, because I watched that fight live. Stipe Miocic showed up ready to go. He looked like he was chiseled out of granite. There was no way he was getting dropped a second time. Like, just because I was rooting for Daniel. I think Daniel's great, especially coming from wrestling background, just being such a stand-up guy and fighter, he's a great commentator, all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'd like to see him go out with the W. But then when Stipe took off his shirt and was ready to go, I was like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because Daniel.
Oh, I can't hear you. Hold on.
Can you hear me? No.
This might be my fault. Let me check real quick.
No. You're good. No.
Oh yeah, no. It's not you. It's me. Let me unplug my headphones, plug them back in. Sometimes.
Yeah. No. You know what?
Got it.
Well, you know what the funny thing about, so there's 3 fighters that I kind of go like, holy shit, I never wanted them to fight again. It was Stipe after the DC loss, Max Holloway, and then Tony Ferguson with the mental stuff, right? Okay. And fuck. I mean, they were just like, fuck you and your thoughts, like, and turned out the best like runs of their fucking respective
Mhm.
careers after it, and like Stipe, I mean, listen to an Embedded, listen to Countdown. Ugh, it's rough. I mean, there's the reason why nobody's kind of chomping at the bit to get that guy doing an hour Broadway on a podcast. Like, it gets fucking sketch, right? And especially, I mean, he was a great dude on the stick, like his early kind of career in the UFC, and then even pre-UFC, he was great. He was great. He almost reminded me of like Brock Lesnar's, like initial babyface run, in Brock's first run before he left,
Mhm.
and then it's just like dribble. It just like I think I saw like brain matter kind of like seep out of his nose in one of the promos. It was like it. But I mean, he's a fucking champion of the world, and I mean, puts out championship levels of fucking performances.
Absolutely.
Actually, yeah, his training partner fought last week on on Fight Island and what have you, and I was just like, he's a heavyweight. He trains with Stipe. That motherfucker's gonna win. I've never been more wrong in my life because that dude got demolished in like the first round. Sometimes it be like that,
Mhm.
But yeah, so in terms of getting in, because obviously becoming a fan and then getting into the business, right? And I mean, we were kind of talking off air, you and Grisham, holy shit. And you were telling me like, oh, that happened when I was 19. I'm like, fuck, like, whoa, holy shit. I was barely forming sentences together at 19. Like, it was it was a sketchy start for this guy here. But I mean, you on the other hand, my goodness. So when did you start this to decide like, hey, I mean, obviously 7 to 19 and even prior to that in training, that's kind of a gap. So when did you make the kind of like the mental note, like, I'm doing this and I'm going to actually enroll in a wrestling school?
It was the summer or the end of my junior year. I'd left the wrestling team. Growing up, I was not a popular kid. I was tall, lanky, loved pro wrestling, loved anime. Not all anime, mostly Dragon Ball Z. Like, I'm a fake anime fan. Uh, which every fake anime fan just loves Dragon Ball Z. They don't know anything else. Although I am watching Full Metal Alchemist, so there's that. But so I didn't have a lot of friends. I was an awkward dude. I was very much in my feelings. And looking back now, I realize that growing up, I had like a real trouble with anxiety, especially a lot of social anxieties throughout my high school years. So it kind of isolated me from some people that I had as friends. It isolated me from them. And I just was like kind of in my feelings a good bit. Now knowing that kind of stuff and mental health being a lot more out there and aware as it should be and spoken about, I can now kind of reflect and understand what it is. And I have my fiance, of course, I can talk to. I have ways of handling that kind of stuff. But as a kid, I didn't. I just had pro wrestling. So the end of my junior year, I left the wrestling team. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with this. Like, I just want to start my life already. I want to start my dream. I want to start what makes me happy. So I looked up wrestling schools, like on the Google machine on our dial-up internet. And there was 2 schools that popped up near me. There was the Wild Simone's Training Center that was 4 hours away in Allentown, PA. And then there was the EWA Pain Factory, which was in Dundalk, Maryland, which for everybody asking, like, oh, why didn't you go to MCW? MCW didn't have a school at the time in Joplin, Maryland,
Mhm.
which is another school I highly recommend. Maryland Championship Wrestling, Joplin, Maryland, a phenomenal facility. A lot of people that you have seen on TV recently have come from there, including people that are now with the Ring of Honor. But so I was like, okay, I don't know the difference between the two. They both look kind of reputable. Now, in hindsight, obviously, one much more reputable than the other. I mean, Samu, like the Samoans, come on. But one
Yeah.
was 4 hours away and I was 17, and the other one was about 45 minutes to an hour and I was 17. So my mommy could drive me to one, probably not the other. So me and my older cousin Justin, who also wanted to be a pro wrestler, arranged so that my mom could take us to their tryout. Went to a tryout, instantly fell in love. From the first bump, I was like, this is it. I'm having fun. Let's go. And also, like, being a high school wrestler and being an athlete, someone who enjoyed, weightlifting and training, all that kind of stuff, I was naturally in better shape than a lot of the guys that were already there starting out. No offense to them. It's just, I I always loved lifting, and it took me a while to figure out how to do it right. But like growing up, my dad was watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and stuff like that, and that did one of two things. One, it gave me a very unhealthy body image of what I should look like, right? And I struggled with that for many years. But two, I was just like, well, gotta get big and jacked. Love weight training now. And so I was naturally in a little bit better shape than most. So the drills I got through, the bumps I got through, the sprints they had us do, I got through. And I was ready to go. The only issue was like my dad, once we came back and, Jim Christian, who runs the school, told my mom the details and the contract and all that kind of stuff, how much it cost. My dad was like, you're not doing this. When you're 18, you can get beat up and hurt on your own time. You're a kid. I'm not signing off on this. And I was like, what did I go down there for then? Like, why did I do this? Like, this is it. And I had a hissy fit. Not proud of it. Was like, I was very upset. Didn't necessarily have a blowed out, like, whatever, like in front of anybody, but I went to my room. I stayed away from people. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was super upset. My mom knew immediately, like something was up. She knew I was upset. She talked to my dad about it, and we came to this deal. He's like, okay, you've got like a job coming up, a summer job coming up. If you can hold down a full-time job for 2 weeks and long enough to pay for your training, then I'll sign away and you can do it. He's like, but you got to do both and you got to stick with it for at least 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. So that summer I went to work at a farm and doing like deconstruction on office space of the person who owned the farm and started my pro wrestling training.
I think it's funny because like, your dad, who is literally the gateway, right? To your exposure to wrestling, was like, nah, kid, fuck it. We're not doing that. And it's your mom that was like, and usually moms, I mean, been to many fights, many, pro wrestling events and everything. And you'll see mom, she reluctantly has the seat in the front row because, your baby wants you there, but they're like, oh, fucking A, right?
Yeah.
But she's the one that's, I mean, literally taking you 45 minutes, each way to pursue your career. And was like, she was all in.
Yeah, so I will say, like, after the first time I did drive myself, I had gotten my license at that point. And two, my mom was hesitant. My mom was definitely hesitant, thought I would get hurt, all that kind of stuff. She just knew, and I don't think she disagreed with my dad's decision. I just think she knew how much I loved it. And I just think I had a better way of expressing it to her rather than my dad, right? Because I think that's kind of how people grow up, right? Like, daughters adhere more to their fathers growing up, sons adhere more to their mothers. In most instances, I think it's just a nature nurture thing when you're young. And so then she kind of was able to like relay that to my dad. And even now she's kind of like, it hasn't switched, but like my dad asks a little bit more about the wrestling, or he's a little bit more likely to go and search out the match and stuff like that. My mom's very supportive. She helps me in any way she can. But like my dad's definitely come along since then. I think he was just hesitant at first. He wanted to make sure, he's like, this isn't something easy that he's getting into. He needs to tough it out. We need to make sure that like he can handle this. And if he can't even handle a job, right? Because I hadn't had a job at that point. So, and I think it definitely, it was helpful in the end because it taught me responsibility and that kind of stuff, and taking responsibility for those things and holding down a job and all that kind of stuff. And what also helped my dad was a wrestler by the name of Ryan McBride, who was big in Maryland during that time, especially MCW, EWA, anywhere in between. And I think at the time was CZW junior heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
He was suspended in Maryland at the time, and I took my dad to a show. And we sit down and we're watching, and Ryan knew of me because I'd messaged him asking about wrestling and the school and stuff, because all us dorky kids do. And he actually came. I can't remember if it was after or before my tryout, but he came and sat next to us like the majority of the show and just talked to my dad about it. He's like, hey, this is with this and this and that. And of course, my dad was kind of like, oh, do you get girls doing this? And of course, Ryan was like, you damn right you do. And like, kind of telling all the good answers that to get my dad behind it and everything. And I think that also helped in a big way in convincing my dad. And then after that, he was ready to go.
No, 100%. I mean, that's awesome. And it's funny because like I remember reading about him and that whole MCW scene, like in PWI, when I was like, I would get my PWIs and wrestlers so I could take it away because I mean, I'm supposed to be on a textbook and shit like that, and I'm like, hey, this shit is from 1979. Fuck this. And I, you know, Inglewood High School education. Shout out to Inglewood, California. But yeah, so I was just like, oh, fucking PWI, let's do that. And I would go, on the 7-Eleven, on my way to school, fucking pick up that latest issue and just fucking, my fucking eyes just glued, So fuck it, you know. So I love that he's a kind of an integral part to you starting out.
Oh yeah, he was big. He was a big inspiration. He's still a buddy to this day. Like I have a probably shouldn't announce this because considering what I'm about to say, but I have a very, very private Facebook set up just for like very close family. Some of my, like, I've gotten a bunch of friend requests from family that are close that I just deny because I just don't want anything that's going to irritate me or me start an argument or anything like that. Wouldn't deal with social media if it wasn't for my gaming channel and wrestling anyway. So like I just kind of like just. It's there for people to contact me overseas since I'm not going to see him in forever and all that kind of stuff. And he's on it, and like we still chat. I see his kid and all that kind of stuff. So he still keeps up on me. He tells me like he's proud of me and stuff like that. And like he's definitely he's someone I've looked up to not only just within wrestling but just outside of life as well, or not outside of life because that's weird, but outside of wrestling as well. Because he works hard. He's got a family. He takes care of them, stuff like that. And So yeah, he was a big instrumental part of my growing up and getting into wrestling, and again growing up in general. Because when I started wrestling, when I started training, I was just turned 17 years old. I was a child. So it was guys like him, Nui Tofiga, Drolix are the three that really kind of took me under their wing and and like showed me the road, took me on the road with them. But there were also like, hey, you're acting like a kid. Like it's time to man up. You're about to be a man. And if I never needed a slap on the back of the head, one of those three did it. And they showed me a lot about life and the other side of the tracks because they all came from very different backgrounds than I did. And they taught me a lot about the world and just what it means to actually like be a man. There's all this macho bullshit about like being a man. You got to be big and strong, have a beard and all. And yes, I have that stuff, but that's not necessarily why. But and like you got to do this and the man does this and the man does, and that's all just gender role bullshit. Like being a man is your responsibilities, taking care of people, being a kind person, looking out for one another. Like being a man isn't necessarily gender specific. It should be something over encompassing of just being a good person. And they taught me that. And I think that's a very big reason why I have the mentality, not only that I do now as an adult, but also the way I go about wrestling and taking care of my business. And because there's so many people that get into wrestling as a child and they just stay that way because wrestling encourages that, especially when they get successful. They're like, oh, I can act like this and get paid and be whatever it is I want to be. And I don't have to have responsibility, but they kind of smacked me in the back of the head real quick and were like, act right.
Yeah. So. Oh, so, that helps, sometimes at the end of the day, I think Jessica Simpson said a little bit goes a long way, but I mean, I think a little ass kicking gets you, it goes a long way. So that's what I'm saying. And I knew he was gonna, when you uttered the love for anime, I knew he was gonna show up. Jesse Velasquez says, that's hilarious. Wait, no, this one. So you're also a man of culture as well. Fullmetal Alchemist is one of the goats. DBZ is a goat. Made anime famous in the US, 100%. And Jesse Velasquez is a MMA champion out here in California. So I mean, you guys are kind of shedding the kind of stigma of and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of like hardcore anime fans. Obviously, Israel Adesanya. There's a lot of like badass anime fans and shit like that. And it's just, I think it's awesome. Like, because you can ask the why question, like why to fighters, to pro wrestlers, the why question, why do you do it, whatever. And fuck, I've gotten literally out of 180 some odd podcasts, I've got 365 fucking different answers of that why. So I'm just saying, and a couple people are probably beholder, but I digress. Oh man. So I mean, that 17, right? Training, and then that match, which is fucking incredible. You and oh God, why did I blank on his name?
Jonathan Gresham.
Gresham, yes. I was like long arms is what I went with. Yeah, That's a hell of a lot of maturity in fucking 2 years, good sir. Like, whoa, whoa. I mean, what do you attribute that to? And what was the journey between, your initial training to that match?
I think that match could be attributed to a handful of things. One, my love of technical wrestling and getting to train it it was in my school. My school wasn't the most reputable, right? There's a million wrestling schools out there now. And if anybody's listening and it's like, I want to be a pro wrestler, if you haven't heard of the person who's training you or someone that they have trained otherwise, maybe rethink it. EWA would maybe fall under that category, but there was people there to guide me and get me in front of like the right eyes and stuff. And I'm forever thankful of EWA, which is why I still go back down there and I act as a trainer myself whenever I'm available. I got a key to the school. I try to give back to what gave to me. So I have no regrets from coming from there. I just want to be clear about that. But like there was people there that were training, that were then trainers that were only like a year more experience than me or whatever, but they saw me, they saw my ability, and they're like, okay, hey, like if this is what you want to try and practice, let's do it. Why not? Who am I to say otherwise? And of course, another big factor in that is Rich Swann lived right down the road. And 2 weeks into my training, he came in and we were all doing a scramble match. I had just learned how to bump. I still wasn't good at running the ropes, right? Like I had practiced at the training before. For some reason, I couldn't get it. He comes in. They're like, oh, yeah, get up on the apron. Maybe we'll tag you in. Do it. Just sell for us. Okay. And then Swan showed up. He got up on the apron, tagged in. He started working with me. He started calling me spots. I just started doing them. I was like, okay. He's like, okay, this, that, into this. Okay. And we just did it. And he's like, oh, man, that was cool. Like, that was fun. Like, how long have you been working? I was like, oh, this is my 7th or 8th training. And he's like, no, excuse me. He's like, if I knew that, I wouldn't have done that. I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, he's like, no, you're fine. He's like, it's just this. You did you see this stuff before? I was like, I just did what I thought I was supposed to. He's like, your bumps are good and that kind of stuff. So after that, he would come down. He would work with me. He would drive with me places. He would take me under his wing, and he'd be like, okay, whatever you want to learn, whatever you want to do, let's do it. Let's try it. So Swan worked a lot with me. He drove me all over the place. There was one time when Sammy Callahan used to run NWA Force One. I would go up there with him, and my mom dropped me off at like Best Buy 45 minutes away to meet Rich. Rich drove me 3.5 hours up to the show. I was a kid. I had a job, but not a lot of money. He didn't ask for gas money. He didn't ask for anything. I offered. He drove me all the way there. He drove me all the way back. And then he's like, well, it's late. I don't want your mom to like come out this late to get you. I was like, but it's fine. I don't want, he's like, no, don't worry about it. He drove me 3.5 hours home and then backtracked an hour to where he would be staying that night. So he would do that. He would come to the school with me. If I wanted to go train at CCW to train with Gulak, who is the person that I credit with finishing my training, which we'll get to in a second, he would meet me at the EWA school. He would get in the car and he would have work that night. And he wasn't necessarily going to train. He was just like, he needs somebody in the car with him or else his parents won't let him go. So he'd go up with me to Philadelphia, 2 hours or so. There was one night we only got to train for half an hour, and then I had to leave and take him to work and get home so I could go to bed to get to school. And he was like, I'm fine with it. I'm cool if this is what you need to do. And then so I would do that just to go up there to train and train with him and train with Gulak. And like, he would do that for me. Again, he would train with me. He would take me around. He'd put in words for me. And then the next thing that made that match happen was, again, like I just mentioned, Gulak. I got in front of Gulak early. From there on out, he pitched for me. He looked after me. I could always go to him for advice. I could always, lean on him for whatever. He helped get me opportunities. He helped get my foot in the door at CCW. He really looked after me and tried to make always the situation as best as possible, learning experience for me. And then he was the one that put that match with me and Gresham together. He was like, they would be good together. Let's do this. Because it was an NBA show. It was like Maven Bentley Association, like free CCW show. It usually goes to charity, stuff like that, if I recall correctly. So like, I think Drew was just in charge of the card. So he's like, put those two together. Let's do it. And this will be good for AJ. It'll give Gresham a good match. He likes to work that style. Gresham had been already wrestling a couple years from that point and was traveling up from Atlanta. So the final point of that match was Gresham really took a shine to me. He knew what I liked. He saw my potential. And we've always had a decent relationship since then. And so he's just like, let's do this. And like, being a young guy, not quite sure of himself, you don't really have your character, your basis, your move set. Yes. Right. Because again, moves aren't important. They're as important as you make them. But in the traveling acts of which we are, it helps to have what your character does. And I didn't have that yet. He helped me fill in a lot of blanks, and we went out there and had a really good match. And like, it was the best match I had for probably like years for until like, I can't even remember the next one after the one that came along that I was really proud of. But like, that all kind of encompassed into making that match happen. And it's still a match I look at fondly. Working with Gresham is still a thing I would really like to do now that I know who I am and I'm very sure of myself and I know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing in there, which again is part of thanks to him. Sometimes like there's been times where like every once in a while he'll give me a piece of advice and maybe the way he says it, I'm kind of like, who are you talking to? But like, just being like, just manning up and being like, well, don't talk to me. But he doesn't mean it in a negative thing. It's supposed to be helpful. And then I take it and I apply it. And I'm like, all right, he was right. Okay. But like, that's maybe one or two instances I can think of, but like, he's definitely helped transform and make me the wrestler I am today.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome because I mean you are competing Sunday for Bloodsport, and you know Grisham is a Bloodsport veteran himself. So I think
Yeah.
it's awesome that you guys are both found yourself there in that kind of setting because I think it's absolutely perfect for both of your styles.
Yeah. It's Bloodsport is something like from the very first one that happened when it was Matt Riddle's Bloodsport. I was like, I would like to be a part of that. Like, I got introduced to the UWFI style, the Pancrase style, the shoot fighting style, much later, and more so through learning it with Ambition and WXW, and then just sparring with Tim and him teaching me catch wrestling as much as he could, and like trying my jujitsu on him and stuff like that, and like, and getting under his wing a bit, which again, if you were to ask him today, he wouldn't take credit for it. He'd be like, no, whatever. But like we spent a lot of hours in the dojo, just ourselves and him teaching me trying to catch him in something and failing and him just wearing me down and just, and so then learning that style and then getting to fight him in Ambition and stuff like that, it's just something to fall in love with. And to me, although I take this Sunday very, very seriously, it's my biggest opportunity in the States today, and I plan on making absolute most of it possible. I also know I'm going to have a lot of fun. And I know it doesn't require, for me, those types of matches, it's a day off. I don't have to think about this or that or whatever. It's like, all right, go in there, put your hands up, see what you got. Let's go. And I'm all for that. And it's fun. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be snug. It's going to be what I like in pro wrestling. Again, it's not for all audiences, right? I think everybody will enjoy it on Sunday. But I understand that the shoot style is not for all audiences. It's a niche thing. But when I get the chance to do it, I am going to sink my teeth into it.
No, I love it. And again, anybody that's done any type of submission grappling, whether that be judo, jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling, and what have you, you understand, it's just rolling. We're just rolling here, But again, the terms of engagement for Bloodsport is KO or submission only. There's no pins. You're not doing, bump what you know about or what your perceptions of pro wrestling are, and let that kind of reside in leisure. Because I mean, KO submission, those are the rules of engagement. And I mean, again, anybody that's rolled, like, yeah, we're light rolling, but guess what? I tore like 3 tendons in my shoulder.
Yeah. I held a more of a shoot style training the other day for some of the people at EWA, not because like, again, to help blow myself up, but also for like, hey guys, this is going to make your pro wrestling better. Because if you have a fundamental understanding, at least, or basis of knowledge of what it means to be in a real fight or a real role or whatever you want to call it, it's going to help in your selling and the way you perceive wrestling and the way you go about it. It's going to make it more realistic. It's going to add that extra layer. So we did that, and first off, I really enjoyed it. It was fun, but like I was telling them, it's dangerous. Like, be careful. Let's go about things slow. If you're not comfortable doing this, we won't. Because I was telling them, and you know this probably better than I, in like white belt tournaments and in white belt training, you're not even allowed to do leg stuff. Mm-hmm. There's nothing with the legs. You do not touch them. You do not go after them. You do not put in a hold. You do not put in a heel hook, because it takes just an inch, if not less, and something's gone. Something's done. Something's injured. And and then I still showed him stuff, but but it was very cautious and safe. And it's just like you said, it's a finite thing. And like, yeah, just light rolling, light sparring, but just oops of the pressure in wrong way, and somebody's gonna have a bad day.
Yeah. Oh no, that day there's like
Yeah.
fucking a 2 year layoff. Like what? Nothing. You're gonna have to relearn how to walk again, and you might pee yourself a little bit. And
Oh,
that's
possibly.
light sparring.
Yeah.
That's light sparring. You
I
know.
was doing stand up once. Like when I trained jujitsu, was at Baltimore Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Shout out to them, to Master Lee, and of course Rob. He's actually a shoot fighter. He's fought for Bellator. Rob, damn it, I need to know this or else I'm gonna feel real bad. It's his last name that always throws me off. He's in my DMs. Where is he? Rob
There
Sullivan.
you go.
There you go. Rob Sullivan. He had a few fights with Bellator and stuff. He really took a liking to me because he's a big pro wrestling fan too. So he would help show me stuff at the school. But I did take some of the Muay Thai kickboxing classes and stuff like that because I just tried to take everything MMA to make my pro wrestling better. And then I've realized I really enjoyed that style of training. And I was sparring one day, and you're supposed to go like 40% stand up. And there was this dude who's a little bit shorter than me, a little chunky. I didn't think much of, but he really loved leg kicks, and he was not throwing them 40%. And I was like, come on. But to him, he was. And so even at 40% or whatever else, like you gotta be careful. Like it's bone on bone, whatever it may be, even with gloves on and stuff. Like that blunt force trauma is no joke. But like I love it.
Yeah. And Jesse Velasquez, who himself is a purple belt in
Light
jiu-jitsu,
sparring, yeah.
says light sparring, yeah.
See, it is a light sparring for a purple belt too, because of being a dumbass white belt that I was for a long time. I'd get in there for a purple belt and be like, "Oh, I'm doing great," and they're just not even looking at me. It's like they're going through water, and then got me. I'm like, "Oh no, what?"
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, there's one of my old training partners, Walter, who's a realtor and like a nurse. He does it like all, and he's a black belt under Gabe Rudiger, former UFC alum, right? And he does this thing, especially like open sparring, right? Like an open mat or whatever. Everybody's here. There's people from the UFC, people from Bellator, fighters from everywhere. Just like 30 or 40 of us just fucking converged on this whatever and just sweating together, whatever. This dude will fucking, and he calls it Sasquatch BJJ because he's like 6'4", probably that 380 and shit like that. He lays. I mean, you're a fan of fucking anime and shit. That dude fucking lays like fucking Snorlax, right? and the next thing you know, you're fucking 20 feet across the damn room. And
yeah,
you're like,
Snorlax is dangerous as fuck once he gets up.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, exactly, and that's it. He calls it Sasquatch BJJ, but I mean that shit is Snorlax as fuck, and I just every time, and usually like when I was training consistently, you fucking look around the room and you're trying not to make eye contact with certain people, and you're like, oh fuck, I think he looked at me. Like you can feel the fucking glare, and you're like, son of a fuck.
It's like the pretty girl at the prom, but it's gonna go the opposite direction.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And it's just like, oh wait, like, we're doing 3-minute rounds, right? Not 6, right? Like, no, we're doing 6. You look at the clock and you're like, oh fuck,
That time lasted like everybody, especially rounds and like UFC and sparring, because we did sparring where it would be like a 5-minute round or whatever. And I was paired with like some tall old man one day that I thought was like gonna be a pushover, and he wasn't, because old doctor dude takes himself real seriously when he's sparring with people, because some of those guys just go in for an ego boost, which is fine, do what you do, but you're looking up at the clock, and 5 minutes is much longer time than just having a conversation when you're moving and you're trying to keep your pace and you're staying on the balls of your feet, or not the balls of your feet but your toes, and trying to keep that pace and try to stay moving. And again, I am a pro wrestler. I am not a real fighter, or someday I will be, but not traditionally a real fighter. But like I have so much respect for anyone who does those full 5 rounds or can get it done within that, because those 5, like everybody looks at 5 minutes like, oh, it's only 5 minutes. Well, I'll just go the whole time. You try skipping rope for 5 minutes. I dare you. Anybody watching this who thinks it's nothing, it is a whole different world of cardiovascular strength.
No, 100%. And yeah, Jesse, the same thing. Walter is a monster. He just rolled me up the other day, and he tried to avoid him. And Jesse, look, judging by his picture, I mean, fights. I mean, and he went 10 minutes.
Oh man,
old man strength is a real fucking thing. Yes,
oh, it is. It 100% is. But like he calmed down real quick when I just front kicked him in the chest. That helped a little bit. 40%, I swear.
See, and Walter's got those too. I mean, your Walter's a little bit different than ours, but
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I remember
Which
one. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, but I've rolled with our Walter too, and it's almost a similar experience because he knows what he's doing. He's done plenty of catch classes. He took jujitsu and stuff as well. And like, it's just this big guy that he's not like the most skilled. He's not flowing through water. But like for me, I'm a guy who has to rely on his strength a little bit to bully people into positions. I can't do that against Walter, so it becomes much more difficult. But it's fun. But it's also like, ouch.
Yeah, no, I remember, and with Jesse and I's Walter, it was funny because he, after like maybe a 9 month layoff of fucking striking, he's like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm gonna fucking do a Muay Thai class tonight, right? And this other dude, like, it was his birthday, so everybody got their fucking kicks in, and you're supposed to kick the inner thigh, right?
Uh-huh.
Fucking Walter, holy shit! I mean, we were in Pasadena, California. His shit. I mean, Walter kicks him and was again those fucking millimeters off and shit. Kicked him right in the fucking nuts. His nuts probably
Oh,
ascended
no.
to fucking the Chavez Ravine. That shit was found in Dodger Stadium later, like a good fucking 30 miles away.
Just
It was
rude.
rough. So shit, man. But I mean, speaking of your Walter, I mean, the current NXT UK heavyweight champion of the world. Holy fuck! I mean, of all the things that WWE puts out on a week-to-week basis, and my friends get mad at me for it, but NXT UK, for my money, is the best
Oh,
fucking
100%.
concept. 100%, right? So, I mean, one large part of your career is WXW in
Mhm.
Germany, right? Where Walter, it was a mainstay, right?
Yeah.
So, how did that start?
So I have a history with CCW and it isn't the best. Stop, start, stop, start. I've had so many people over the past couple of weeks being like, "So glad to see you get opportunities." I screamed at such and such so long to give you, and like he did his best. The owner did his best at times, but didn't believe in me. Would go back and forth, back and forth. But at the end of the day, he also just straight up told me, he's like, "You'll never be the guy here. It just is what it is. I don't think you have it to be here. Maybe it's someplace else." Not here. But then so many people like, no, 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 no. And then like, again, some of the opportunities came when I was real young. So it puts a sour taste in people's mouth. They don't get over it later, but then booking, whatever it was. But I will say he was like, he always offered me, he's like, if you would like to go someplace else and train, go do an overseas stay or whatever else, I can try to arrange that for you. We can try to get you out of here. And I think part of that was him wanting to, sorry, I got just my headphones. Part of that was him wanting to get rid of me, but him generally wanting to help because he has always gone out of his way to help guys, even if maybe he didn't like them. Not to speak against any of the other things that he's done that's been negative that have come out over weeks or whatever, but like this is just personal experience. I'm not condoning anything else, of course. But he sent out an email to like Brian Dickinson for doing the camps in England. He sent it to WXW, various other England promotions, and everything kind of fell through except WXW. And WXW was like, "Hey, we'll take him. We got 6 dates for him. So why not?" So I was like, okay, let's do it. He's like, "You want to do it?" I was like, "I want to do it." Okay, cool. I'll go over there. I'll train with Walter. I'll wrestle some matches. Let's see what happens. I'm all about it. So I went over there, and after the very first weekend, a man by the name of Bad Bones John Klinger was going to be paired with me for the weekend. He was a veteran of the roster. He was going to be paired with me. They kind of do that. Guys coming in, they don't know. They'll pair him with someone older to see what they're like, get a feel for them. Usually Walter does it. Walter didn't do it with me. The Bad Bones did it for me because they were doing this thing. It was 2 town shows. WXW is kind of set up like old school WWF, where we have our town shows, which is like our house shows. We have our feature events, which are like our in your house events, and then we have our marquee events, which is like one of our big 6 pay-per-views, that kind of thing, like your Rumble or King of the Ring or whatever else. Maybe not King of the Ring, Survivor Series, whatever you get. So it was 2 house shows, and I was going to be with Klinger both days. And he looked up my stuff ahead of time, and he came to me. He's like, I see you do an apron pile driver. What if we do this and then we do that? And I was like, you don't have to take that. You don't know me. You don't have to take that. I blatantly said that, and he's like, "No, I trust you. I'll take it. I got an idea." So he volunteered to put me over on the first night. And he's like, "And then we'll do a return match the next night. It's only like a town over. Some people will still be there or come. And I'll get the win back in the main event." And Walter's kind of like, "Are you sure?" "I don't know. Like, we don't." And John was like, "Let's do it. Why not? Let's see." First match went real good. Second night, we had the main event. We went like 25, 30 minutes. Uh, Afterwards, John was like, hell of a match. He pulled me aside. He gave me some nice words, some very kind words. I'll always be thankful to him for that. He went to Walter. Walter came to me, and Walter was like, well, first, Marcel Battle of Imperium came to me. He's like, hey, that was a hell of a match. We don't have somebody like you guys or somebody like you. We're so used to people coming over from such and such company and having to ask them, please don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. That's not how we work here. It's too much. You might hurt somebody. All this. He's like, didn't have to do any of that with you. That match is what we're looking for. It was great. Thank you. And also, you fit in with all of us. You fit in with the boys. You get along with everybody. Like, it's great to have you here. Damac, who was in the Cruiserweight Classic, did the same thing. Jurn Simmons, who goes on to become my tag partner and one of my absolute best friends, he said something similar as well, though he probably never admitted it publicly. I don't know, but he kind of grabbed me and said something, because the first day or two I was very my anxiety was back. I was very nervous. I was very quiet, all these new people, but then I started to break out and talk a little bit, joke around, realized me and Jurn were the same person real quick. He's just the Dutch version. And then Walter came up to me at the end of the night and he was like, hey, pretty much mirrored what Junior said. Like, we didn't have to tell you not to do all this stuff. That's refreshing. We don't have a heel like you. I like your mentality for this. Can I talk to the office about maybe like bringing you back more for this tour and stuff like that? And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then the next week I had a match for the shotgun title. That was a little bit more advertised. It was on a feature event. I ended up getting a standing ovation afterwards, which was really neat. It's first time that ever happened to me. And afterwards, like the office and Felix Kohlenberg came up and were like, hey, we'd like to bring you back again. We would like to have more dates with you, work with you a little bit more. Like, what do you say? I'm like, absolutely. Let's do this. By the time, like, once I had gotten home, I emailed my work, gave them like a full month's notice. And like, we were on a roll from there. And even before I left that first time, like, Walter asked me to take over some classes. Like, he had asked me once, like, hey, can you come down? You're going to come to training tonight, right? I was like, yeah, I always was going to attend Walter's classes. He's like, would you like, and he's like, would you do it with me? Would you like, because he would ask me what I thought about certain drills and how certain people did and all that kind of stuff. He asked me, like, what do you think of this person? We're about to put them in a advanced class. What do you see? And then from there out, by the time the next tour for me started, he appointed me as one of the trainers, as one of the advanced trainers and stuff like that, which is a position I still hold once I eventually get back there. So he not only helped me stay with WXW, he was the person that instilled in me, like, no, even though people in the States told you your mentality was wrong and you do this, and that, I think that's bullshit. I think you have the exact right mentality. I think you believe in the sport of wrestling, and I think that you're on the right track. And please, and he even messaged me before I went home. I'm not sure if he would want me saying this. I don't know. I don't think he would care. He would just deny it publicly. I don't know. He's a big goof, but he texted me. He's like, oh, sorry, I missed you. I wanted a chance to say bye, but please, like, looking forward to having you back. Please don't change, your thought process. Don't let anything rattle your mind. I enjoy the way you think how pro wrestling should be. I enjoy your thought process. Don't let that change. That was the first time I think anyone had ever said that to me. So I was kind of finally felt like, if this guy who's at that time becoming a big star is saying that, then like maybe my style of wrestling, maybe the way I do things will be rewarded. And, I just grew and grew from there on out. From there, afterwards, the tours previously, I started working with the owner of the company at the time, who is no longer with the company, Christian Michael Jacoby. I was like, okay, what can I do better? Okay, what can I do better? Okay, what can I do better? And he was like, okay, this doesn't match this. This doesn't match this. You say you're this, but then you come out to this. So he helped me like really define who I was and fill in all the gaps. And then he just gave me more opportunities to learn. There was a period in time where when me and Jurn were first going to start becoming a tag team, we started doing a loop of house shows, unannounced, us as a tag team, to get the feel for it and feel it out. And he broke his ankle, which sucked. Which also meant the rest of my tour was going to be in the shitter, because now what are they going to do with me? And it was leading into not World Tag League again, but I think into 16 Carat. And I'm sure it's years ago now, so I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying, because again, it's years in the past or whatever. But the plan was that me and Jurn, and it was going to be my first 16 Carat, me and Jurn are both in the first round, both lose. The second day, they have a tag team gauntlet. of which we are a surprise tag team entrance in it. And we had just got done a feud with each other too. So everybody's going to be like, what is this? And then we win that tag gauntlet. The next day we challenged Thatcher and Walter Ringkamp for the tag titles and we beat them. And then we start our run. That was out the door. That was gone. I felt so bad for Urine too, because he's sitting there in the hospital with his broken ankle being like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I just fucked you over. I was like, don't worry about that. You can't walk. Let's, I'll figure something out. It'll be whatever. They won't leave me hanging. And to the office's credit, they didn't. They're like, okay, we got to do something with AJ. Ilya Dragunov, our world champion, needs an opponent for the next show. Let's put him in there, right? It'll be a nice one-off match. They'll have a good match. They had a good match in Hamburg. They'll make it work. The show comes around. Ilya is injured. His eardrum was ruptured or something. He couldn't do whatever it was. And so they're like, we can't have him do anything more than whatever. So how about this? You'll come out, you'll do this or that or whatever. You'll be all, do your curtsy, or because there's a little bit more, I guess prissy is the word. I guess I don't know if that's a derogatory term. I don't know. Yeah, but prissy. as a prince than anything, and it's not as gritty as I am now. It wasn't as much pain as it was pro then. And then Ilya will hit the torpedo and you get out of there. And he'll just beat you right off the bat. And I was like, oh man, that makes me look like an asshole, doesn't it? I went from like beating Ringkampf to like, but whatever. It's the job. It's one of the featured matches. I'm here to do the business. Whatever. Ilya didn't like the idea either. He's like, I don't want to do that to AJ. Why? Like, I get I can't wrestle, but like, why do that? Like, let's not hurt the situation. Like, I don't want to fuck over it. I don't like that. So Jacoby was he was just like, all right, if you guys don't like it, that's fine. Could come to me with an alternate idea. And Ilya was like, cool. So me and Ilya talked, and I was like, what if, I think it was a combination. Both of us said this. I was like, what if I go out there and cut a promo about how you're injured and that you can't do this? And that's because old Ilya would have, fought enough in an injury and not cared. But new Ilya, the Ilya that everybody loves after having a kid and stuff, he's weak and all that kind of stuff. So I'll cut a promo. You come out. They won't let you do it. They won't let you do it. I say something else. You brush past them, Torpedo Moscow. We don't have a match or whatever. It's just that moment, and then we get out of there. It's a cool moment. We don't have to match. You still get the same effect. I'm not, jobbed out in a match or whatever. We do business. It is what it is. Ilya was like, I like it. Jacoby was like, I like it. And I was like, and this could lead to something later. And he's like, they didn't really want that. And I don't think they wanted to tell me that, but he was just like, oh, don't say that on the mic. But when you're leaving, say something to the camera, whatever. Right. Which I know they're not going to use that cut. You don't use cuts of people selling off being like, I'll get you. The attention is the ring. I kind of knew that, but I was like, okay, that's fine. I cut a promo, and like, not to toot my own horn, or Anderson said toot. One of my, I was so scared of talking as a kid, and I never wanted to be the promo guy, right? I wanted to be a wrestler, right? Which I know now is, cool and all, but you want to, as Adam Cole taught me, if you're a good wrestler, you'll get work, or you'll get booked. If you're a good character, you might get a job. You might get a job. If you're both, you'll be a superstar. And so, but now I've found myself like in-ring promos, especially at 16 Karat Gold this past weekend. That's my thing. I can do that all day long. I'm not rattled. I'm not uncomfortable. I don't write anything down before I go out. I'll have maybe some bullet points. And the office doesn't try to dictate what I say too. Some guys, they'll try to help along. They'll come to me and be like, this isn't general what we want. I'm like, cool. Go out there behind the camera as well. Like, it's something I've become very, very comfortable with. And I've gotten a lot of praise for it, which I'm thankful for. But I went out, I cut this promo. It got some great reactions from a Frankfurt crowd. Ilya came out. I ended with the line that, like, his little bastard son is what made him weak, which anyone who knows Ilya, and this is for real, that's a man who loves his family. You don't say anything derogatory about his son. You don't make a comment. You leave it, because Ilya is crazy. Ilya will fuck your world up. Don't do that. So, and Ilya was even joking to me beforehand. He's just like, oh, just so you know, I will be mad and I will come after you. And I was just like, all right, hey, wait a minute. What? I'm about to walk. Like, hey. But we go out. I say the line. He comes out. He eventually brushes past the refs. Torpedo Moscow. Big pop. It was great. I walk into the back. It goes to intermission. Jacoby comes. He grabs him by the arm. He's just like, don't take this the wrong way. He's like, because I don't mean this in a negative way. He's like, you should wrestle less. was like, what does that mean? He's like, you should talk way more. And I was like, he's like, what you just did, you should always be doing. There should be no reason that you don't have a microphone. And he's like, you just talked yourself into a world title angle. And I was like, oh, okay. So then the rest of my stay at the tour until I think it was the Hamburg show, the 20th anniversary Hamburg show, which we co-main evented with Zack Sabre Jr. versus Walter, was me versus Ilya. They switched the plans. They're like, let's go this direction. We were a little fuzzy to begin with. Now we know we're going to go this way. And then the next morning we had to film Shotgun. And he's like, well, obviously we need to continue this angle. So you tell me what you guys should do today to continue it, and we'll work on it. So I came up with an idea. I wrote it down. I gave it to him. He's like, I like it. Let's go. And that's how we continued the angle going forward. So then it gave me another aspect in another area to learn this craft and see what works, what it takes to draw money. Because, you know, that's how people learned back in the day, was you do it on the road, you do it repeatedly, you do constantly, you learn what works, you learn what draws money in and out of an angle and stuff. And this was a huge opportunity for me to learn that. So that's another big part of the WXW growth for me, in a sense, which I feel like that was a very long-winded answer to your, I feel like I've left you quiet for a little too long. So sorry.
Never. This is a podcast. This is getting to know who you are. And I'm fucking loving every bit of it. I mean, I think it's like you, Frank Trigg, Barnett, and there's another, Simon Gotch, right? These are the fucking easiest ones I have to do. I don't have to say a fucking thing.
What a list to be put in with.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So anytime you guys want to come on, fuck, do your fucking thing. I'm just going to sit here because I'll fucking mark out. I'm just cool. That's it. Fuck yeah. I'm all right. Yeah, no, I love that fucking answer. And, but everything was concise. And again, you kind of being afraid and having anxiety about talking, I'm all like, what the fuck for? You're great at it. God,
yeah.
Can we have more of that? Can we?
Oh, just saying. I think you guys just saw a Killer Kelly cameo in the back.
Yes, there was a run in there. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like when I was a kid, like whenever it came to like presenting projects and stuff like that, I wanted to go first to get it over with. I wanted to go last, or I wanted to go last and hope they forgot about me. I didn't want to present things. I didn't want to speak in front of people. I wanted to stay away. I just wanted to, like in my guitar class I once took, we had to like compose and write a song and all that kind of stuff. Like I dreaded it. But for some reason, once I started doing like pro wrestling promos in front of an audience, I was just like, this is easy. I'm like, I got this. Like wrestling's what I do. Maybe it's just the comfort zone of wrestling or whatever it may be. But like, I've never had a second thought or doubt when I had a microphone. And like, I just like, and I think part of it was when I first started doing them, I was in the CCW audience. I was in front of the CCW audience, I should say. And they're vicious and they're rude and they're mean. And if they don't like you, which they didn't like me, they will let you know it. But if you can learn to kind of not grip them, but kind of sway them in the direction you want, like use the little tricks with the microphone to get them be quiet when you need them to be and listen when you want them to and react when you need to. If you can, I feel like since I was able to do it there and I got it there, using it anywhere else is just second nature at that point.
No, and I think you answered Jesse Velasquez's question that how did you get over anxiety of talking? See, that's why I love it. You just you've answered like literally everything in the fucking chat without even knowing it. So I'm like, this is fucking great. It's fucking great. It's fucking great. Now, obviously, October 11th, Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. Indianapolis, Indiana, the fairgrounds for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport as a part of the GCW collective. What are people going to see in Alexander James versus Calvin Tankman?
They're gonna for the world, not just the United States. They're seeing a very new version of me. It's been 8 months since I wrestled, yet I'm in better shape than I'm in the best shape of my life as far as just aesthetically, but also just cardiovascular. I've been running myself ragged since I got home. I know there's so many people who took the pandemic as an excuse to, take a break, and that's fine. Let your body heal. And it's a trying time. It's a horrible time. People's anxieties flaring and all. Like I said, I get that. So it's not a knock on anybody who couldn't do what I did, but I took it as an excuse. Like, I'm gonna lock myself in my basement. I'm not gonna go anywhere. I'm gonna eat right, and I'm gonna train, and I'm gonna watch, and I'm gonna get ready, because 16 karat gold weekend was probably the best weekend of my professional life. And there were so many things that had the potential to come out of it that couldn't, because the world started to end. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get hung up on that. That's fine. Because now when the world's back and I have that next opportunity, they're going to see a new side of me, the more vicious side of me that people have been asking for, that think I should be doing. I'm going to be the best version of me I can be. I'm going to be focused. And so this isn't just a coming out party for me in the States. I think it's just a coming out party for me in general. New gear, new look, bald head now. I'm more ready to go, more fired up, ready than ever. And I'm coming to fight. Is as simple as that. Like, I know a lot of people look at Bloodsport and their mentality is going into it is like, okay, I just got to use like my best pro wrestling holds and what I know from, and I'm sure there's some guys in the, actually, I don't know. Josh Barnett does a really good job of like making sure the lineup is stacked. He takes a lot of pride into it, which I respect and makes me feel honored. But I'm not going into this like I'm going to try to get him up for a power. No, I'm going to, he's a big dude. He's heavy handed, but I'm taller. I'm faster. I have, from what I understand, much more experience pro wrestling wise and like just catch wrestling wise. So the plan is get him to the ground, make him uncomfortable, put in a sugar hold. I don't know, bring that back, whatever it may be, and wear him out and tie him from limb to limb. Cause like, he's a nice young man from what I've heard. He's a very nice guy. I'm going to make him a baby. That's what I'm looking forward to Sunday. That's what's going to happen. And that's my illest of intentions. Like, I think before, when I first started being called the Pain Prince, it was just, to show that I loved technical wrestling. And that's why I use so many holds, because I'm actually a prince, but that's not what it is. I'm a prince at causing pain. I love to instigate. If Kelly got on here, she might have even said it. I love to instigate. I love to nitpick. I love to pick people apart. If I have somebody in a hold, I could wrench it and just end it there, or I could just take my time with it and enjoy it. A lot of people have compared, if everybody's seen Game of Thrones, a lot of people have compared me in real life to Ramsay Bolton. I will pick you apart even after I've got what I wanted. I've got a young student come with me on the road that day, so I'm going to instigate the shit out of him ahead of time, so I'm sure he'll be able to tell you that as well. That's who I am as a human being, is I am an instigator, and the Pain Prince moniker is because like I'm just absolute royalty at tearing somebody apart. And that's exactly what I'm going to show on such a big stage. And I think that's also, like, I was telling this to Kelly earlier, I think that's a sign of knowing when you're ready and it's your time to shine, is when you get a big opportunity and you're like, okay, cool, that should be fun. You're not in your mind about it. You're not rattled. You're not whatever. You're working as hard as humanly possible. You're looking forward to it. You're focused, and you're like, I'm going to take advantage of it. But it doesn't stress you. It doesn't flare any anxiety. It doesn't make you go, oh my God. Because that's when that's when you're a pro, you're ready. And I'm looking at this weekend and like, that's my element. That's what I do. I have no issues with it. I have no worries about it. It's the style of wrestling that best suits me. So all I have left to do is do what I do, and the rest will take care of itself. And I think that's when when you're ready to kind of break out and take a stand. Not that anybody really knows, but if there's ever an inclination, it's when you get that big opportunity that everybody's congratulating you about, and you're kind of like, I'm going to destroy it. It's mine. There's nothing about this that doesn't scream me.
No, 100%, 100%. Now, before we let you go, because that is a great sell, your favorite match of your career thus far?
It might be, I think that I'm going to give two, if that's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
One is me versus Ilya Dragunov for the WXW Unified Heavyweight title in Hamburg, Germany on the 20th anniversary show. Because again, everybody was like, oh, Ilya, like AJ's not a main eventer. AlexanderJames isn't a main eventer. Ilya is going to get obviously a win, all this kind of stuff. Then Walter and Zach were given the main event. So I went into it with a chip on my shoulder, and I was just like, all right, we're going to do better. We're going to go out there and we're going to throw, and we're going to make it something special. And that was a match. Like if you go on cagematch.com, when they suggest WXW matches to watch, that's one of the first ones that comes watch. Like, watch this match. This is WXW. And to be at the time still feeling like an outside guy, that was really special for me. Walter gave me a compliment on the next day. He was like, oh, a lot of people online really liked it. Some people, started, not that I believe in the ratings or anything like that. It's all opinions and stuff, but I'm thankful that some people rated it just as high as Zach and Walter. Some people put it on the same note and put us in the same breath, like, oh, this match, like it's 1A and 1B for match of the night or match to watch from the show. And so many people like the pat on the back. And then afterwards, people were like, No, Alexander James is like here to stay. He's going to be a main eventer here if he's not already. So that, and also it's just a great, solid match, back and forth. I love working with Ilya. Uh, he's a heavy-handed dude. He fights hard. He doesn't give up, and that's what I like to be in the ring with. And then another one is me and Yearn as the Crown. No, I'm sorry. Wait. Okay, I'll pick this one over the other. It's me
Yeah.
and Tyler Colton, big powerlifting heavyweight from Canada, who everybody should watch out for. And also, if you need coaching on strength and conditioning, stuff like that, definitely check him out. Me and Tyler Colton from Canada versus the Rotation and Yearn Simmons in Dresden, Germany, in a tag match, which is like in the middle, dead set in the middle of me and Yearn having our like blood feud. And that match is, I don't like to tout my horn about anything in particular. There's not very often I come back proud of matches. I instantly, I can do this, I can do this, I can pick this part, I can pick this part, because I'm one for fine details. That's what I bring as a trainer and a nitpick, I guess, in a sense. So I was like, this could be better, this. Instantly was tearing it apart. And I do about all my matches. But I came to the back and Ilya was like, oh man, like he was super excited, which he doesn't get too often. He was so pumped and ready to go now for his match. He's like, that was great. Lucky Kid was like, oh man, how? Like he was like, and then like Absolute Andy, who's a big agent, he's like the Undertaker of our locker room in a sense. He was like, damn near. He told us, he's had a little critique or two, very very little things. He's like, that was a damn near perfect match. He loved it. He was exciting. People are into it. They were into every storytelling aspect we wanted to get them involved in. Every moment that we wanted to create, they were there for, more so than we thought they would. Yeah, that was a really fun match as well that I look at fondly.
Oh, it's always nice when you get the respect of your peers, and then also you put out something that you're proud of.
Yeah,
and
that doesn't happen often for me. I am very I don't stay up late at night thinking about it anymore. I've matured a little bit past that, but there's not a single match where I don't come back and I'm like, I've already got 5 things that need to be worked on till the next time I go out there. 5 things that could have been better, or 5 things like, okay, scrap that because they didn't bite on this. This is the reason. We'll do this and we'll go into this, like every single time.
I don't know, and it's with that mindset, right? That cultivation of perfection, right, or near it. That also extends to your social medias as well, right? Your Twitch channel and everything. So, if people haven't already done so, where can they find the Pain Prince, Alexander James, on social media?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Both are at Pain Prince James. If you see a tweet go up and then all of a sudden get taken down and be back up, it's because my lovely fiance or Yearn has been like, wow, why are you so bad at English? It's your only language. You misspelled this. And so that happened. Because sometimes I'm just like, okay, and scatterbrain sometimes. But I'm a lot better about that now. And also you can find me on my more real life, outside of wrestling, how I've always dealt with my anxieties and stress and stuff like that, is I love like gaming channels and video games and stuff like that. So I also I'm fascinated with how small businesses start up and become brands. So I started my own. So you can find me at twitch.tv/thecrowntwitch, where I play games. And again, it's the whole point is one, obviously to help influence or help, how would you put, supplement my income, as I am an independent performer and such and fighter for a living. But also to provide kind of a safe place for people to come, hang out, enjoy, talk about stuff, talk about video games, bullshit. I have so many students, former students, friends, peers, people I've mentored who come in who are just like, I'm having a bad day and I want to escape it. And I'm like, then come here. Let's have a good day. Let's think about something else. Let's get your mind off of it. Because sometimes a trick with a lot of mental health is it's your brain telling you that there's a situation occurring that's drastic that isn't actually the case. And if you're able to remove yourself from it, sit back and take a moment, then you can look at things rationally and you can kind of conquer whatever it is. And I know that's always helped me. And so I try to provide that for other people a little bit. We've also raised money for charity. I've in the past, before the pandemic, we always did this 50-50 thing where anything donated, which most streamers keep all the donations because part of their living, anything donated, half of it goes to building the channel, the other half goes to a charity. Earlier this year, when the pandemic first started and I was still in an okay financial situation, we just made 100% of the profits go to stuff. So it was either like COVID research or we also did like a full week's fundraiser for I think Minnesota Freedom Fund, that as well. We even raised money for a former student of mine who's family's business was broken into and vandalized, and insurance wouldn't cover anything. So we tried to raise money for him. We try to, regardless of like my aspirations for the channel and what I would like to do with it, I always try to at least make it a positive place for people and stuff like that. Because so many other places like Team Triple Jump and stuff like that on YouTube have done that for me and What Culture Gaming, that it's cool to like get my hands dirty and try to create something, because I like creating things, and then making that a platform for other people as well. Because again, like some people want to go out there and be like, oh, just toughen up. But you know what? Our brains are a muscle. It's part of the body like anything else. Sometimes it gets sick and you can't help that. And if this is a way that it can kind of help people a little bit, like it's helped me, then I'm all for it. And I like to try to make it as positive place as possible. And we've got a nice little fan base. Even last night I was testing to see, because I've got this whole like little studio set up back here, but my PC isn't as great as I thought it was as far as gaming and streaming at the same time. So I was testing last night to see if I could play Fallout New Vegas on my PC and it would work out all right while I stream it. And it worked really, really good. But what surprised me was I was live testing it, but I was in the dark. And all of a sudden my chat blows up with people being like, hey, why are you live right now? This is awesome. Hey, what's up? Oh, are you testing Fallout? I'm like, guys, you're not even supposed to be here right now. Some of you need to go to bed. But it's a really nice positive place. And again, it's twitch.tv/thecrown Twitch. Again, it's free to anybody, but at the same time, we leave the wrestling talk out of it a bit, unless I'm playing a wrestling game, because it's just talk about games, vibe outside of it, because a lot of people that come in are involved in wrestling some way. They want to escape as well. It's necessary for your health and stuff. And especially with wrestling going through some dark times as it had the past couple of months, so people just need to be away from that. So that provides that. It's a lot of fun.
100%. I mean, that's kind of the reason why this podcast kind of exists, and I've done 180 episodes in the last 3 months.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's it, man. And just checking on to see how my friends are doing, and giving thanks to them for playing a part in my career, but also meeting new friends such as yourself. You know,
yeah, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. This is like I don't do interviews and stuff too terribly often, but I'm like. This was a lot of fun. This was a blast. I enjoyed talking about it. It was candid. At no point did it feel awkward. It was just fun, good stuff. And even I learned some stuff. Like, it's nice to talk to someone who's like from the not only pro wrestling world but the MMA community, because it's kind of like the MMA community is kind of a love I have that I don't know a lot about, that I would like to know more about, that I also found fascinating. Like earlier before I came here and I was at the gym and I was like finishing up some workout. Like on my phone, I just had like UFC clips on, just because it motivated me and I thought it was neat. So I wish I got to dive into that world a little bit more, but just time constraints and stuff. And for some reason, like wrestling shows are always when fights are on, which is real annoying. But
oh, my brother, just like everybody that has been on this podcast from the Bloodsport, your DM is going to be filled with all types of obscure wrestling and MMA shit. So your DMs will be thoroughly thrashed with all the crazy and useless knowledge that is fucking combat sports and that reside in the fucking space between my ears, my man.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Hell yes. And definitely reciprocate, man. But I can't wait. October 11th, Bloodsport on Fight TV as a part of the GCW collective. That shit is going down. And again, the Pain Prince is coming to bring the pain. I can't thank you enough for sending some positivity and some cool vibes as you head into war. And I can't wait to see you guys. And if you guys haven't already done so, purchase that for $19.99 on Fight TV app, or you can buy it as a larger part of the collective. I think it's like 130 some odd. But again, there's awesome shows. Or you could just get Bloodsport a la carte. So either way, fucking do it, because I know what my Sunday night is going to be, because I know what my Sunday morning is going to be. And if I don't allocate that to my wife, I'll probably be divorced by Monday morning. So
yeah, it's probably best bet to make sure there's some of that time for her. Just
saying. Yeah, calculated. But brother, thank you so much. This has been According to Woods with the Pain Prince, Alexander James, and we are out. But first, Zeta Zhang wants to talk to you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure